Hello, Foxct. What everyone wants, not knowing how to say it, is that we want the nature of the law. I'll help you. And who says this is wrong is lying, and or with physical delusions also juxtaposed. What everyone wants is the law's nature, an identity of relationship to itself and value. Let free speech. There is an identity theft organized crime method that each identity of the ground of the branches of government and on off it, not by accident, is recorded and involved with, confessed and demonstrated, like on off the Connecticut State Judicial Branch offices with the Fiennes family, and with two police, Mendez police involved, interbranch forging names, switching names, pretending things are recorded into databases as their crimes with other nations and with overt criminal enterprises with the area and with uses of everyone that forces them to be demonstrated how involved with this. This is also offensively knowing that and having known that and already having been facilitated to roles with child abuses that are simultaneously with and as this simultaneously against the change of fact treatment nature with and as natures of impositions missed because we have our identities having been stolen by Fox Connecticut News that prevents me and women and kids from reporting things after having a while coaching them their sensibilities to defenses of roles, having valued and valuing fake sides of correlation nature's actual identity and the value of that. See, when you put energy into electricity into a magnet, there's polarity. You can discern that by putting the two magnets next to each other. One way it's gonna come together, or one way it's not. With that polarity is a semi-nature, which is where that value is a little bit more value relationship to itself, positive or negative. That semi-nature has that complete nature of relationship to itself that will not change. That's what really forces the battery to have a might and power simultaneously in relationship to this identity of value. So that, in other words, English was revealed to teach with yin yang simultaneously, alpha and omega simultaneously, to teach about this, how there is a little bit more of a complete nature's value coming into and as the temporary / lasting space nature value of English. I have to cut my nose to bears. But I just saw the fake news. I just woke up. I just saw that on Fox Connecticut News is also not following the nature of the law, using with lawmakers already criminally foreign influence. Each branch individually grouped and together. Now, when they're individually and when they're grouped, they're relying upon that already having been valued per crime methods, like saying they have legal rights to do things and quoting statutes. As crime rolls with sequence shifts, database crimes, the only reason they're allowed to get that is because their background narratives are tied to those database illusion stackings that are also recorded, tied to criminally methodically maintained on off-campus identity theft crime acts roles. Manifest originally still keeping each identity of each branch as a victim predator, child abused and hurting other through the act. Before that was sophistication. This was sophistication using each identity of the ground. Before our founders recorded fact treatment nature slavery births, without free speech, being tortured in roles that no one understood. That's why they had so many crazy laws and built even polarity Native Americans, they not just trust, I mean, in other words, leveraged against each other. Because everyone was forced to a tactically ulterior from actual value nature systems, where and as the only the progressively valuable one that is always shared by all is a totally different system. And is the complete reason why we have fact-checking nature, body of value discernment. That's why each identity of value discernment to break to what it is always is what science is. See, but the science is each together, grouped and together where are maintained tactically, criminally foreign influence and delusions wrought. You do the same way with the branches simultaneously. The same way with the natures of industries rely upon tactical ulterior from this actual perfect value nature progression value system. All ulterior. For shared police hundreds of nations as pseudo-positive defenses of roles with that as practicality that never was, not by accident. Each nation is hurt distinctly by what is fluently, non-distinctly, not even discerned by nations. Because all it does, it needs to do is keep having had that it already made that value per fact, treating nature, conviction, nature, quality as positive. Defenses of that offensively can't defend themselves in free speech from demonstrating recorded criminal uses of each branch of government. You guys now are preventing, they're stealing our identities so they can offensively prevent people from making simple statements in life. They're, worse than extortion, property thefts, intellectual thefts, torture, identity thefts, natures of crime. We have coaching, so the WFSB was crimes with the Faenza family before they played roles and are playing roles with the coaching of families attaching, they're using a force sustained every time, the right to lie criminally. They already used it criminally. And they force people to ignore that because of the courts recorded crime roles, uses of standing identities of positions of areas. Families and extended families for respect to titles and stuff and backgrounds that never had, were still criminally foreign influenced. The differences of nations that are phenomena fighting each other, where they know that's their identity, they want to fight for each other there and here. All they're doing is fighting for there and here natures of uncharged, grouped nations together in collusion with crime methods where like Russians and Americans are in collusion through their uses of the identity of the grounds, relationship through their uses of each age of fact-shaping nature, on and off campuses per this other nature of organized crime, maintaining everyone misprision and sensibilities in relationship. They're feeding into, they're only letting, this is a nature of torture that that is using health and wellness. This is where they have originally still the collusion of the branches that individually grouped in together originally and still valued themselves, blaming on other causes and on others and on themselves, their roles with the causes of negative value nature progressions locked since before our founding, our founders' births. This is why nature never stopped going away, not because that it's natural, that there's no way to stop it. To have a constant stream of people going into nature, it's not going to get damage to nature if you have it where that stream is by real science. It's just going to evolve through that stream. See, we have streams on highways each day that drive by, recorded criminally foreign influenced, but not sourced by one, specifically to keep it getting blamed on other things and others. This is what the devil is. An organized crime method that did this. See, that's why we have cars that go out with no plan. Then if there is a plan, they're going to make it, everyone agree to make it locked in worse. Unfathomable. The positive identity of itself that is always also positive, where the value of the ground is a gaining value, as in purely native rights, forsaken, recorded, and that self-value, the same way we're doing it, because they can't fathom. They already entertained, tactically recorded, invested these systems that are not practical, and that's not maturity. Each age of fact-shaping nature is in a trap that is using human fact-shaping nature. So they have words like legislation as physical delusions recorded into sciences and juxtaposed with overt and with unrealized left, private, and interbranch of criminal enterprises, collusion. As criminal insidious natures, I'm not a lawyer, not police form, not criminal, not military. Military is also recorded with predicate acts, crime rules, illusions, evidential ones. See, we have a fact-shaping nature that is as a body of evidential trinity nature, as correlation nature, as three natures of volume, inherent, active, and progressive. And as the value of that in relationship to the identity that inventions work or not in relationship to. Therefore discernible, even though invisible. And further positive or negative. On YouTube, there are videos about the weapons. This is so scared about nations, because imagine the money going into that, and everyone's in a recorded, tactically denatured and valued denatured relationship to nature and means. One way redeemed. See, because the nature of industry now by accident was made for that. So just like the religions took counter positions, because the human fact-shaping nature everywhere was already had tactically, criminally re-engineered sciences and affects nature with our valuing of our fact-shaping nature quality. Everyone valued it negative because they were forced to react to negative that they were forced to blame on other causes, not others themselves, and then to value that. That's an organized crime method that, with motivations, nature's means of demonstrating nature's recorded other than has been allowed, because this is what it takes as a quality of fact-shaping nature to explain the simple organized crime method against our founders that our American history is really about. The Declaration of Independence is about how they were tortured, how they still had their identity stolen, but they were forced to stick that up, to fight. They were forced because they were by unwillfully too. They were, even though, in other words, they were forced by James Madison, his plan, and they made it because they had a breaching organized crime method here, inter-colonies, where they had the differences of that used as a means to keep what is fluent non-distinctly through each of the modern nations, that had each of the modern nations sold to collusion as victim predators, then watching it unfold on a map and defending powers and identities of relations in that suit and tie already negotiated. Worse than terrorism. Each age of fact-shaping nature respecting pseudo-positive, criminally foreign influenced integrity of nation never liberated. George Washington didn't chop down the cherry tree in Connecticut right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War. That's why they had to leave overt slavery here. Connecticut. This way, even though he did chop down the cherry tree, which was like a diaspora of evil that never went away. If he even forced religions to rolls because there were left rolls. That's why the first part of the Quran and the first part of the Old Testament are never let valued as nature. And this is about how value is nature and how nature is valued simultaneously, distinctly, and non-distinctly, in demonstration further of the identity that sciences work in are not in relationship to. So I shouldn't have to go into all this. I should just be able to focus. Also, FBI recorded and confessed with other agencies criminal uses of Facebook, and with other nations through criminality that came since before DACA and then through DACA. There and here. This is the crime method that is keeping all blaming other things and selves for the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. Natures like criminal insidiousness nature, wrongdoers. Acts like predicate acts, and these are organized crime terms. And these are terms that need to be used to teach about the simple breaching organized crime method that our history is about. The only thing that becomes complicated are the reliefs, and that and how everyone was invested as fact treatment nature to other value nature positions already having only been known, valued, defended, tactically other, and having valued the roles, natures, and causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, natures blamed on other and others, and so they want to attack, we could put a stream of people from New York City, for example, to go through a part of a nature. If you do it right, when they come back, it's going to be unbelievable, like closer to garden. Otherwise, just be a stream of people from anywhere, it's just going to destroy everything. I mean, as they shouldn't conform nature to caring for effectively breaching method used tactically denatured relationships to nature. Native American value, they're recorded and invested to treatments of forced, worse than torture, identity thefts, that they don't know how to explain because they're forced to entertain with everyone practicality that is impractical. It's worse than most killers, very insidious, even worse than most serial killers. What is leveraged on cities, on suburbs, let alone on cities throughout the nations, specifically to maintain quality of fact treatment nature, positions incapable of teaching our course about culture, which is about nature, which is about its identity of relationship to itself, and as the value of that. So Wethersfield has WFSB, recorded, confessed, involved with Miss Prisian, fact treatment nature relationships to their sequence shifts, which are identities of liars in relationship to all their fact treatments, and with physical delusions mixed with criminal foreign influences, and so with their uses of pretending to be about what they know they're against, which is the nature of the law's legal, positive relationship to itself and the value of that. So they're cultivating people to criminal insidiousness nature roles with their identity thefts, preventing free speech and stealing people to fake words, interbranch forging names, switching names, and intercity, crime acts in collusion with that, because then they're needing to hide that by maintaining their means to further overt criminal enterprises and all the private ones per their standing uses of clubs downtown Hartford. All the people associated with people from my town that use that as for their identity theft crime acts roles that I don't even know. I know of because they make you walk by, then they pretend they know you, and you're in other locations, they know you. And it's worse than that because these are interbranch evidence crime acts actors and uses of it already in cases through time. Those are serious charges, but that's recorded real. That's why they stole my identity, because they were using the right to lie that they pretended legally was interbranch, interstates, intercities, and worse. Maintain that, and then crime acts rolls with the Pentagon attack simultaneously with the Trade Center attack, and with it tied to the sequence shift proven after that was inside the Trade Center attack context with the panel of judges showing post dated from inside the court to appear late. So having appeared late documents that had been post dated inside the court on time. That proven after led to defendant, former director of the FBI, and his co-defendants and his lawyer in a 2006 case. And since before I was born, and then my entire life with their recorded, confessed, and demonstrated crimes with people with database crimes, with identity thefts against me, with each of the schools I went with that they facilitated, with federal criminals that were his co-defendants, associated further with foreign and domestic criminally involved with my area. And that's with a Dillon family, with crimes with then they got themselves needing to hide things now see, this is what a mile from my house there's a child campus that's further with child offenders, but the women roles with it are also as judges, also state's attorneys, for their uses of databases. So then when people trying to make fact treatments that are proper, that are using correlation nature simultaneously inherent active and progressive means, for the way it redeems, they can't take it, so they hurt people offensively. They need to value that hurt people for hurt offensively. There's no doubt that each branch is a victim. Every single person on each continent, every state and area of each nation is a victim. But it's because this is not being addressed. And nature is going to continue to demonstrate negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. Again, predicate acts, criminal and seditious nature, motivations to it, to roles to hurt strangers, pretend that they're defending justice. These are evidential rackets, all kinds of ways already. So we have opinions that are made to value other. They're keeping both political parties and everyone originally and still criminally foreign influence not to say anything about it. Hurt, incapable of saying anything about it. Delusions rot at the same time, that value. The same people pretend to be against physical delusion. The ones propagating it. Because they're each age of fact treating nature, especially child courts. And dealing with the elderly, especially probate courts. We have all kinds of mental, physical delusions, intersciences that we have to have addressed. We have mandated law not followed. And then in the news, stealing people's identity, acting sequence shift roles, pretended value, while they're preventing free speech, attaching me and others to fake words through time, sequence shifts. There is a Phil Cololo, also recorded and confessed, involved with the Fox News and WFSB. A whole bunch of other policemen and women involved with identity theft crime acts. Never had a class with Phil Cololo or Eric Mendez. They're also recorded and confessed, involved with crimes next to schools with identity thefts and with drugs, with kids as police forms, and then as police with crimes like recording, pretending things are recorded, writing the name of police equipment, putting me into a fake quotes so they can pretend they know me now because they were recorded indirectly and directly in the past involved with um, medical corruption and drug crimes of all these different natures, and with doctors and things like that when they were kids. With I don't know those doctors, and those are also like a Leahy family. Pretend they had conversations with me as an adult, and they did that. They pretended they had conversations with me as a kid. These are people that are involved with proven and further child offender with the kids because they have it juxtaposed with some of the interbranch with their kids. And these are groups with intercampuses, interdepartments, databases that they use criminally already. Because so they have everyone valuing the identity of the ground. We're categorically connected, valuing criminally foreign influenced fact treatments regarding our citizens, regarding the integrity of what people say, regarding their treatments of words like legislation. They're making that invested, identity theft crime acts rules. People that can pretend things from the background, but they can't pretend it up on surface because there's sequence shifts that reveal their physical delusions and their criminal foreign influences and uses of that way worse already in cases. These are trade center crimes. These are crimes with Russians, with psychology, with hospital medical campuses, fire department campuses, involved further with the intercampuses of even private schools, and each age of them connected to this crime method. Both of the corners of Highcrest Street and then one in the middle also recorded, when both of the far corners recorded, confessed, and demonstrated distinctly and non-distinctly involved with crimes with the Cololo family's extended relatives involved with identity theft crime acts and drugs crimes with the kids, and with the forensics cliques and police forms foreign and domestic, and overt criminal enterprises in the area criminally involved, directly and indirectly. Also, criminal uses of the witness protection program directly and indirectly. Also, Joshua Julian is recorded and confessed involved with military police, foreign and domestic, facilitated crimes on off CCSU, on off Trinity College through time, and with the forensics cliques criminally involved, with the police of these courts and their criminal uses with depositions, criminal uses of lawyers to make fake sides of fact treatment nature, fake middle, which is what they're doing now, investing with WFSB, preventing family members from demonstrating recorded abuses of kids, crime methods on them, even recorded, by attaching me and my family members to fake positions on issues, and to fake sequence shifts, and to fake relationships to others, attaching us to fake locations, attaching us to fake fact treatments with federal criminals that we proved in labor case involved with criminal enterprises and police forms. See, I don't like to talk about it because there and here we don't have integrity at the same time. And they fight about that to keep it that way. Because we were originally negotiated worse than terrorism and pretending other. And that was already valued per what keeps them criminally foreign influenced maintenance to misprision. This is through nations that aren't even wanting to be in collusion with each other criminally, but they're valuing it as ours, as ours together too, as each age of fact treatment nature, pseudo positive until they're conformed, valuing the real causes and having valuing how have that it is only having had been valued. The real causes of negative value nature progression acts and nature is blamed on other causes, things in themselves, vaccines of themselves. So we have the nature of what is driving really the people to flee nations, and to pretend to be about valuing those bodies here as natures, as weapons, preventing free speech to what is people stacking sicker than most killers on whole areas through time. I just remind, intercity, maintained insidiously, hiding the live progressions of what is worse than interstate. And it's not sourced by one, specifically as a crime method, keeping each nation needing to blame the others and sell other things themselves and others. Russians and Americans are kept needing to fight each other by who gets hurt by that and doesn't want to be hurt by that, but they don't know any better. They're dealing with roles with psychologies, physical delusions, and criminal uses of campuses in Russia and in America the same way, with a whole bunch of other nations doing the same thing, because they were originally negotiated worse than terrorism too. So what we want is fake news to fix the fake news. And I want a response. See, they're not giving anyone a response because this Phil Collo was put into databases pretending media locations. I never had a conversation with him in my life. He's involved with the identity theft crime acts. I noted how they tried to film the appearance of that not being true. And that's the only context I know them in. And I believe I noted I never saw him, had a conversation with him one time, pulled into a driveway on off of the Bernal Turnpike. See, and this is also recorded and confessed involved with houses on and off Two Rod Highway and Hangdog Lane, involved with further child offenders, further juxtaposed natures of it, and like with a Victorian house, I don't know the names of the people. See, they're not preventing the name. They're preventing the names from being told because of the way they're using the police station recorded for identity theft crime acts, crime methods where they're forging and switching names, attaching people to fake recorded things through time. This is also with the Dillon family. I just remind, and with my new and past neighbors recorded and confessed involved with crimes with his family, and with child offenders, and with harassments of me, and with them with crime checks of sequence shifts, and then pretending people did what they did. In other words, for fact cheaping nature rackets, I've been asking to report crime acts. Nothing debatable. They're attaching me to fake identity thefts since before the Trade Center attack. You know, distinctly and non-distinctly. In the Trade Center attack context, the same people involved with the crime acts with the campuses and with the co-defendants of the former director of the FBI. Same people involved with criminal uses of depositions through time for identity thefts to make the appearance of integrity to lawyers, being used criminally for sequence shifts, illusions. No, in other words, just to make it look like there was I knew people before I did, and or at all, and I was in contact with them that were never at all, which is tied to these Mendez police and two Domain brothers, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved crimes with police forms associated with women in a Mulcahy family. I never had a conversation with them in my life. I never had a class with them, never had a location with them. I mentioned about the Mike Domain, who I only know for him making confessions to me out of nowhere. And, about that, the girl associated with the rickshaw final also recorded, confessed crimes with the Leahy family and with Brian Silver, with New Britain Superior Court, with a whole bunch of men and women, further with child offenders, even sexual and medical crime acts, and fake news crime acts, and coachings of the sensibilities to Miss Prisian. And that's also Miss Prisian with doctors forging names, switching names, other natures of predicate acts, including Trade Center predicate acts, and including with the investigators of it. And that's because how we have our nations facilitated to collusion through on and off campuses, roles with crime method,